Welcome to Tailblazers Talks. Today we'll be discussing switching your pets to raw food. We'll go over what we look at when switching a pet, how to feed your pet, and what to expect when switching. We hope you're as ready and excited as we are. Switching to raw. So you're ready to switch to raw. This is excellent news. There are so many noticeable benefits for you and your pet. Let's talk logistics. Before we find the right diet for your pet, we want to discuss any health concerns or specific needs from you. Number 1, how old is your pet? We ask this question to determine your pet's needs in a raw diet. If they're a puppy, they may require more bone, foods, and omegas. If they're senior, they may require less food and more attention towards aging care. Number 2, how active is your pet? We ask this to determine again how much your pet needs to eat, based on their performance. We determine this based on 3 levels: low, moderate, and high. Most animals fall into the low to moderate section, especially cats. Even at 3 walks a day, your dog is not highly active. This section we save for a performance dog, those who are sled dogs, police dogs, or do agility daily. Number 3, how much does your pet weigh? We ask this question to determine how much we feed your pet. Puppies eat approximately 4 to 6% of their body weight until they're finished growing. That's about 6 months to 18 months based on breed. Adult dogs eat about 2 to 3% of their body weight, and senior dogs eat about 1.5 to 2% of their body weight. Performance and age will play a role in determining which side of the percentage your pet ends up in. Number 4, are you happy with your pet's weight? Do they need to lose or gain weight? We ask this to determine whether you need your pet to gain weight or lose it. If your pet needs to lose or gain weight, we'll adjust the weight you gave us to the weight you want your pet to be. Number 5, does your pet have any health concerns? We ask this to determine if there are any foods we need to stay away from. If your pet has allergies, we have to make sure we're not giving them food that they're allergic to. And if your pet has a sensitive stomach, we suggest to them a food that might help with that. That being said, with proper raw feeding, most of these problems seem to clear up. Number 6, what is your pet currently eating? We ask this to determine if your pet will have difficulty switching over to their new diet. If your pet has been on a hypoallergenic pet food or a vegan diet for a regular amount of time, they will likely struggle on the switch to raw since they haven't eaten meat protein in years. Pets are similar to us in that way. If we've been eating a vegetarian or vegan diet for years and then switch to eating meat, chances are we'll struggle with our digestion for a couple of weeks. Specifically with being on a hypoallergenic diet, pets are usually put on these diets due to severe allergy problems. Once they come off the food and switch to a meat-based diet, they will likely have severe yeast issues, which are difficult to manage, and will likely require the addition of a supplement to manage the problem. We take all of this information gathered and we add it to our raw food calculator to find the best raw food option for you and your pet. The average dog. Let's work on the average customer. The average dog is usually about 3 to 4 years old. They're usually about 80 pounds and their breed is common, like a lab. It is common for labs to have low activity and they may be overweight, so they may need to adjust their weight to about 77 pounds. Labs have extreme health concerns, usually some type of allergy, overweight, and high yeast output. These issues are likely all caused by the extensive use of fillers in the dry dog food they were eating and can be fixed by a raw food diet, or with more serious conditions, must be partnered with a yeast-destroying supplement. This dog was previously eating the most sold dog food in 2022, Purina Pro Plan Adult Complete Essentials Shredded Blend Chicken and Rice Dry Dog Food. Check out the results from the info being entered onto the Tailblazers Raw Food Calculator app. This dog would be eating approximately 1.5 pounds. Now, if we put in that the activity level was moderate and the weight was 80 pounds, that feeding amount would increase to 2 pounds a day, which for an overweight dog would be enough to keep them there. You can feed this dog a whole serving once a day or split the 1.5 pounds into 2 meals. I would suggest that this dog eat a variety of at least 3 proteins for 2 months to see drastic changes. On the side, I would also suggest a more vigorous exercise plan for them. And no more treats unless they are single ingredient, low calorie, and healthy, like Crump's mini liver bites. Labs will eat everything and anything you put in front of them, so when I say treats, that includes table scraps too. Put a family plan together so your household is all on the same page. No more. The average cat. The average cat is usually on a dry food, unfortunately, at this point in switching, and usually already has major health concerns like extreme allergies, decreased kidney function, or diabetes. However, let's start on the happy side and pretend that it's a 1-year-old cat switching to raw. This cat weighs about 12 pounds and is moderate to highly active since it's an indoor-outdoor cat. This cat is in perfect health apart from some tartar buildup on the teeth. This cat is currently eating First Mate Cat and Kitten. Here are the results. This cat would be eating about 0.3 to 0.4 pounds of food a day. This is just under half a pound. This meal I would split into 2 servings a day. Because of the mild buildup of tartar on the cat's teeth, I would also suggest the addition of chicken necks for chewing. It's important to note that the cat is already eating a high quality and healthy kibble. The owner is wishing to see the benefits of a raw food diet. Making the switch. For the most part, dogs are extremely easy to switch to raw food. If they've eaten kibble their whole lives, they may be a bit confused. However, they usually take to it quickly. The trick here, if they're hesitant, is to be persistent. Do not give up after 1 or 2 tries. We see this all too often, and it's not the pet's fault. It's the owners for not being more persistent. Many books suggest that it's a good idea to fast. Do not feed the animal for 12 to 24 hours to get the digestive system ready. I tend to suggest a short fast. For example, feeding the old food in the morning and no food but lots of water until the next morning when you start the new food. This way your pet will be very hungry and really want to dive into anything in front of them. You can also start with using the food as a treat. Get them to sit and give them a little piece of the food. Continue doing this until they seem extremely interested and then feed them the full raw meal, minus the treats amount. Add a bit of extra moisture to the food, whether it be water, goat's milk, bone broth, or an egg. The texture of raw food can be a bit confusing to the dog, so try to make it wetter, and then the consistency is similar to that of a canned food. Or, gross, I know, thrown up dog food. When dogs puke up food, they are likely just to lick it up again. If none of these tips work for you, just be persistent. Your dog might hold out for a day or 2, but will eat eventually. Make raw their only option. If your pet is sick, please consider talking to a pet nutrition expert or one of our expert team members before switching yourself. Older dogs or dogs with pancreatitis will need to be fed a lower fat diet and will need their meals split up more. These are not easy switches. The feisty feline. These are difficult and picky creatures, so how do we switch them to raw food? The trick here is if you get them as a kitten, you should be introducing them to as many different feeding options as possible. Even if you aren't planning on sticking to that diet, they should be trying wet, dry, freeze-dried, air-dried, raw, and all other possible feeding options. This way, you're creating a variety for them. And if you need to switch them in the future to a different option, it'll seem way more familiar to them. If your cat is already an adult, persistence is key, and making the food as different as possible is also important. By that I mean to feed them in a different place. If you feed kibble on the counter in the kitchen, feed your cat in the living room on the floor. Put the food in a different bowl. If you're feeding them in a plastic bowl, try stainless steel for the raw bowl. If you make it seem like this food isn't normal, then they will not see it as you replacing it as something they know and love, but see it as something new and exciting. Cats can sometimes be particular about the temperature of the food, so let their food get to room temperature before feeding. This can be helpful to start. You can even try adding a little bit of warm water. Also, you can try mixing the raw food in with a little bit of canned food, or if they're eating dehydrated or freeze-dried food, try mixing it with that to help with the transition. For cats, unfortunately, sometimes it takes a while. Once I was able to successfully switch a cat from canned to freeze-dried to raw over a weekend. Another time, it took over 2 weeks to switch. It's important to not wait your cats out. Cats cannot handle not eating for more than 1 to 2 days. This can send them into kidney failure. Every cat is different, so try to stay persistent. If your pet is sick, please consider taking them to a pet nutrition expert or one of our expert team members about their issue before switching. What to expect when switching? Here are a few things you might notice during the first few weeks of switching. In the first couple of days, you'll notice right off the bat a change in digestion. No, you won't be able to see what's going on inside, but you will surely notice what's on its way out. I'm talking poop. I'm talking the coolest poop. Raw poops are my favorite. They are much different consistency than kibble poop. They're firmer, drier, smaller, and way less smelly. Basically, these poops are just showing you that your pet has absorbed everything it possibly could from its food, and it's just leaving you to pick up whatever material is left over. They will drink very little water as they're getting the moisture required for their body from the food directly. You will notice a huge change in skin and coat after a couple of weeks. Your pet will shed less, they will be way less smelly, and they'll have a beautiful, silky feeling coat. No, not the greasy, silky coat that leaves an oily feeling on your hands, but a soft, silky, clean coat. Better breath. You should notice that your pet's breath is smelling better. That's because their gut is healing, and a healthy gut equals a healthy pet. There are so many benefits you'll notice when switching to raw, but the best result of switching is overall health. Common questions. Here's a few questions we regularly get when switching a pet to raw feeding. Number 1, can I mix the kibble with raw? This is an extremely touchy subject in the pet food industry. Some people swear by mixing both, and some people avoid it like the plague. It all depends on your pet. If your pet has never had digestive difficulties, it should be okay to try it out. And if your pet has digestive issues, it should be tried with caution, or maybe just avoided. Our suggestion, if you're interested in trying this out, give it a go. You will know whether it works for your pet after a few days. Number 2, how long can you leave the food out? Our rule of thumb is about 45 minutes. After that, there is cause for concern or bacteria growth. Raw food is just that, raw, so make sure that you treat it as such. Would you leave the raw thawed chicken on your counter for more than 20 minutes? No. So use the same reasoning with your pet food. If your pet is not interested in finishing the food after about 20 minutes, wrap it up and try again later that day. Number 3, how long can the food be thawed? Raw food can stay in your fridge, thawed, for 4 days. Cats usually like their food fresher, so 3 days is usually the cutoff for them. Number 4, how should I feed raw food? Raw food should always be fed in a stainless steel bowl, since stainless steel is non-porous, so there's less chance for bacteria growth. Plastic is the number 1 bowl to avoid in a raw feeding situation. Number 5, will I have to clean more? Always clean your counters and hands after every meal served, and always clean your pet food bowls after feeding them raw. Treat raw food the same you would treat your own raw meat. Number 6, what do I do when I'm going out of town? Don't worry, there are plenty of ways to feed your pets a raw food diet. You can choose from a variety of options from dehydrated, air-dried, and freeze-dried foods that are travel or camping friendly. Raw food is also available in almost every pet food store across Canada and the USA. You may just have to be comfortable switching brands while you're traveling if you can't take food with you. We hope that you enjoyed this video and hope that we've helped you see how simple it is to switch to a raw food diet. Raw feeding is a different way of feeding for sure, but once you get used to it and see the changes in your pet, it will seem as though there was never another way to feed. We hope your switch goes seamlessly, and if you need help, don't hesitate to stop into a Tailblazers location near you and experience the benefits of your pets being Tailblazers healthy.